Hey everybody, so we are here for a Little Prince reunion and we're having it at happy hour. So some of us have some adult beverages, some of us have some not adult beverages. And I'm Carol Anderson and I am principal coach of the Utah Opera and one of the hosts of Ghostlight Podcast, and I'm joined by my co-host.
I'm Jeff Counts, co-host of the Ghostlight Podcast, as Carol mentioned, and I'm the ultimate fly on the wall for this party. I'm glad to be part of it.
So, and we're joined by almost all of our cast. Just a couple people had conflicts to get through, but let's go through and introduce ourselves. So we're going to start with our star of tonight's video presentation, or the presentation that you may be watching, and that's Ty. So Ty, introduce yourself.
I'm Ty, and I played the Little Prince in the opera.
And he'll be blonder than he is now when you see him in the show. And if you're not in Salt Lake City, be sure and tell where you're zooming from. So, Mr. Jared.
My name is Jared. I played the pilot, and I'm currently in sunny California.
Excellent. Madame.
My name is Tara Faircloth, and I am the stage director for The Little Prince. And I am in sunny and sweltering Austin, Texas.
Excellent. Keep Austin weird. Yeah. Okay. Down at the bottom of my screen, Maestro.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jim. I was the conductor of the production, and I am in sunny New York City.
I'm Melanie Malinka. I'm the director of music of the Madeline Choir School, and I prepared the children musically for their production.
Brilliantly. Okay, Miss Soprano.
I think that's me.
Oh, yeah. Either Soprano.
I'm Melissa Heath. I play the role of Water and one of the lovely Roses, and I'm just a little bit south of y'all in Provo, Utah.
Fantastic.
And I'm Grace. I played the Rose, and I am in Red Oak, Iowa. You probably have never heard of it. It's
Where's
fine.
Red Oak? Remind us where Red Oak is. What part of the state?
It's very southwest Iowa. I'm at my fiance's family's house, so.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Hey, I'm Melanie. I played the Fox and one of the Roses. I am in hot and muggy Washington, D.C.
Our nation's capital. Okay, then ever in the corner there for me. Let's do Addison first.
Okay, hey, I'm Addison. I played the lamplighter, the drunk, and a hunter and a baobab in Little Prince, and I'm just sitting here in Draper, Utah.
Fantastic. And our other tenor?
My name is Josh Lindsay. I played the Snake, the Vein Man, Baobab, and Hunter.
And I see your hair is very coiffed, so you're carrying the Vein Man torch. And then our low voices have not made it in, so unfortunately they had some conflicts. So yeah, that covers everybody. So, trying to think how I wanted to go with this. I just think, we had an awesome time. It was really an extraordinary experience, I think, for everybody. And, I just wanted to kind of remind everyone how great it was. And it's a little bit self-indulgent, I suppose, for us, because we get to sit there and think back to 2019? Wow, doesn't that feel like decades ago, really? So, Ty, you had not actually done an opera leading role, but how did this all come about for you? Because you were amazing as the Little Prince, and was this a role you were determined to do? Tell me how it all came across your life.
Well, so at first when Ms. Malinka told my mom that I should come in with a few other boys to try, to try singing something, I had no idea what it was. I asked my mom, she said Ms. Malinka just wants to see if your voice is ready for opera. So I had no idea what that meant. But so then as we started kind of getting into the music, we learned that we were eventually going to try out for the Little Prince opera for the role of the Little Prince. And I I thought that was like amazing. I was really excited about it, even if I didn't get the role. I was excited to be able to try out for it, and so it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you know, it was fun. We saw a lot of really great boys. Our Madeline Choir School is just so full of talent. And Melody, how did you come up with the short list? You know, was it just kids who had done opera before? Obviously, Ty hadn't done opera, but what were some of the things you looked for?
I kind of tried to pick different age groups as well, because I wasn't quite sure which direction you all wanted to go, really, with a look and with at that. And then I also just looked at which singers do I have who can take on a big part like this and can learn it. And the fun part with Ty actually was that he was actually not in the choir yet when we chose him to try out for this part, because it was at the end of his 4th grade year, and at our school the choristers start in 5th grade. And so kind of speaks to, I think, how strong he is musically as well. And yeah, and so in the end, it was the youngest one who was chosen, actually.
Yeah, Ty, what's different? Because you sing in choir all the time and you do solos, but what did you find was really different about being in an opera?
Well, it's different because it's not just like you singing a piece. It's kind of telling a story with it. And it was also, in addition to singing, there was also acting and lots of other stuff, which was new to me pretty much. I hadn't done a lot of acting, but it was pretty different, like if I compare it to like other things I've done.
Yeah, because you sing a lot. I mean, obviously, you know, not lately, but you sing a lot at the cathedral in choir, and I think I've seen you do some solos even up there too. Sarah, how did you work with Ty since it was all new to him?
What a great question.
I know. I gave him all these questions, and then that wasn't on my list.
That's right. Well, I will have to say, number one, kudos to Ty and Melanie, who clearly worked her buns off for months preparing Ty and the entire chorus. So honestly, from my perspective, I was never worried about him musically at all. And that is not always the case, not even with adults. So that was that was amazing from my perspective, that we could really just focus on getting him really comfortable on stage. And I mean, it's interesting because this role is kind of a weirdo. So, you know, it's actually okay if the young singer is not exactly, you know, Meryl Streep on the stage, particularly. You know, you can use that insecurity and lack of confidence to your advantage. But I will say that I came in December actually to work with Ty and with Jared and with the chorus a little bit, just to get a jump on the rest of the production. And I mean, just in these couple of days that we worked together, it was remarkable. And I have to give major kudos also to his co-star who took him under his wing, and Jared and Ty became like BFFs, and Jared just taught him all the ropes and was totally, you know, really helpful and, you know, being a really good colleague and making sure that Ty was able to sing facing the audience, because Jared would make that happen for him, and like giving him a little nudge if he forgot something, because obviously Jared has a little bit more stage experience.
Just a little bit.
Just a
What
touch.
you don't know
But
is
I mean, I think
helping me. Oh, sorry.
no,
Turning me
please.
to face the audience.
Yes, I mean, as per usual, by the end of this, the children are leading the adults for sure.
Right.
So,
yeah, I mean, it's true. Jared, you and Ty became buddies.
Well, he spoke to the 12-year-old within myself, so that was nice to get to let out a little bit. Yeah.
I think we're gonna have a late arrival, but we're excited to
Ooh.
see Jesse's arriving. Oh, he was getting his hair
Hey,
done.
Jesse.
Jesse's here. Hi, Jesse. When he gets on, Jesse, introduce yourself real quick.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jesse Murillo. I played the businessman in The Little Prince, as well as Baobab number 3 and Hunter number 3 as well.
Yeah, so we were just talking a little bit about Ty and Jared being buddies. So Tara, you got the chance to create with your colleague Jacob Clymer, who's an amazing designer. You got to create a whole new world for Little Prince. It had been done before in a different version. How was that for you? Exciting, fun, terrifying?
Well, I mean, all of those things, honestly. I mean, Little Prince is a pretty daunting musical property because, number one, it is like one of the most beloved children's books of all time, not just in America, but all over. It's beloved not just by children, but by adults. There is an iconic production that was produced by, I think Houston Grand Opera premiered it, and which in the opera world is like, when they think Little Prince, they think that. And then, not to mention, the subject matter is really difficult because it moves through a billion planets all in Act 1. There's no time in between them. And there's a children's chorus, which plays flying cranes and stars and all kinds of other billions. So it's a problematic show, to put it lightly. And so really for us, the challenge was to try to create something that really resonated with the memories that people already held, but also to be fresh and new for our sake as much as anyone else's. So we decided, again, I do just want to give a huge shout out to Jacob Clymer, who is a creative genius, and it was a delight to work with him. We had been hoping to work together for some time. And so we looked at the book and really took a lot of the autobiographical elements of the book. The author of the book, Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, he actually did crash in the Arabian desert and had almost died. He was rescued by guys on camels. And then he came home and he wrote this book in a cottage on Long Island. And he was notoriously did many iterations. So we kind of became entranced with that. And the whole set, it begins in a library where we see the original Little Prince drawings, and the library actually never goes away, but the back wall does explode onto a set completely covered in papers and books, which was to kind of symbolize his creative output. So yeah, it was a labor of love, and we had a great time doing it, and I think the show looked really beautiful. So.
And a real fun fact, just thrown in here, at a certain point, there was a call to the entire company to please come and glue pages and cut pages, because there were thousands of pages that were printed of Saint-Exupéry's work, sketches and drawings that had to cover the entire set. And so everybody had to do their part, not just the set people.
You know, Tara, I'm so glad you mentioned Houston Grand Opera and the premiere of this piece. And of course it premiered at HGO. I mean, for those of us who love contemporary opera, thank God for HGO, right? I mean, they do so much of it. I wanted to ask Jim about that because I know he was involved in that first production. He workshopped it. He conducted the premiere, if I'm not mistaken. So, Jim, how did that experience relate to this one? What's changed for this piece over its relatively short life? What do you have to say about what people are going to see?
Yeah, well, I have to say that, so having been involved with it, and I've done it, I don't know, several times since that time in Houston, and my first reaction when Christopher called and said, we're doing a production, but we're not going to do that production, was, what? And I think I said that to you, Tara, when we first talked. I said,
yeah.
How? What are you going to do? And you guys did such an incredible job. I mean, this production just, every single day I was being blown away by the new looks of it and the new take and the way the characters interacted differently and the library and the pages. So I'm in 100%. Like I was skeptical at first before, just hearing about that it was going to be different, just because the first production is always what's in your mind and it's so iconic. But this is Tara and Jacob did such a beautiful job with this that it was fantastic to be part of it.
Yeah, the first production was really kind of a quite literal representation of the illustrations we're used to in the novel.
Well, and some of that was by mandate. The Saint-Exupéry estate, I almost said estate, the Saint-Exupéry estate, his nephew, I think it was in Houston for the much of the rehearsal period, and it was mandated that the costumes look exactly like the drawings. And so that really limited how things could interact and how things could be done. And there were also discussions about making certain cuts or changes, and it was absolutely no, everything that happened in the book had to happen in the opera. And that goes all the way back to when Rachel and Nick were creating it, that they had certain limitations that you might not have on a lot of new operas, but they were very specific about that.
But it's a property that's very carefully curated by the heirs of Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. This is Rachel Portman, the composer, and Nicholas Wright, the librettist.
I want to kick it to the other singers here pretty soon, but I don't want to be done with you quite yet, because we talked when you were on the podcast with me way back when this premiered in Utah, and we talked about the fact that roles for children, I'm doing air quotes now, have been around forever in opera, but those roles being done by actual kids is fairly recent in opera history. So, and you got to work with a lot of kids in this production. So given the fact that one of them is on this call and you have to be, talk about what that was like and how
let's rank all the kids I've seen. No, I'm just kidding. No. Ty, you were fantastic. And it's so great to do this show because you do see a different take on it every time you do it, right? You see a different kid, because kids come in, I mean, it's part of the point of the book anyway, right? Kids come in with these open eyes, this fresh take. And so where there might be certain ways that every pilot approaches it or every Rose approaches it or whatever, every prince comes in kind of with their own personality, which is really fun to see, because they're not jaded or ruined, right, by experience. Make sure you quote that. But that it's like they come in with their own way of doing it, and Ty came in with just such a fresh approach. It was really fun. And I will also give the shout out to Melanie Malinka for I mean, he and the chorus were just so on top of it. Day one, ready to go, sounded beautiful, sounded fantastic. So.
I mean, we're so fortunate at the Utah Opera to get to work with Melanie and the children of the Madeline Choir School. I mean, it's an extraordinary partnership that I think doesn't exist anywhere else in the world of opera. And I mean, I don't mean to just, be like, Melanie, you're amazing, but you are amazing. How did the kids, talk about how the kids reacted to doing this. I mean, they had to work hard and they were asked to do a lot.
In a nutshell, they loved the experience from beginning to end, really, from when they started learning the music and then when they were performing it. And I think Ty can probably speak to that all our choristers just, one of the highlights for them is always being involved in productions with Utah Opera, because it's something different. They're so used to performing, so they, in average, our choristers perform 3 times a week, but it's always, standing still, holding your music, and a lot of it involves actually sight reading, sometimes even while you're performing. So an experience of actually really diving into a work and really studying it and memorizing it, and then being able to put on a costume and act and be part of a story is just, it's something that our choristers really value and enjoy. And they all hope to be part of an opera at one time in their time as a chorister.
I know, and it's a sad season that comes along in Utah Opera that doesn't have kids. So we're always happy to have those kids.
There's 2 things that Ty said that I'm going to remember forever after this call. One is that opera's not just singing, it's about telling a story. I thought that was fantastic. And the second thing was that Miss Malinka suggested he come in for this. No, Miss Malinka doesn't suggest things. If she says it, you do it. And she's the boss. But I wanted to, everyone's about to see, this production and get to see all the wonderful things we're talking about. But I want to talk to everybody about what they won't see. I'm curious what some of your fondest memories of the rehearsal period and putting this together. What are the most memorable moments? Why don't we start with you, Grace? Why don't you take it first?
I mean, working with Ty was just so much fun. And I just remember there was like a will they, won't they situation of like whether he was going to hug me or whether there was going to be a kiss on the cheek. Like it was so cute because it was,
remember hugging
and it's
everybody?
a serious, right. Remember that?
Yeah.
We used to do
but
that.
consent is important. And, I'm glad that is instilled, at a young age. But, just the joy of working with somebody who's so young, and it kind of makes it fresh for you.
And Grace, I remember talking even just recently, we were reminiscing about you standing on how wide of us at the end. You stood on a thing that was meant to be sort of like a sand dune or something. How wide was that? Talk about that moment. Your costume was spectacular, but it was also problematic.
Yeah. So I couldn't see my feet at any point when I was wearing the rose costume. And yeah, I had to stand on this platform that was probably like, 10 or 12 feet high, which maybe doesn't sound that tall, but when you're up there, it's tall. And I had to stand up there during the curtain call. And I just like had a mini panic attack, and luckily it was in like a dress rehearsal or something. And I just went up to Tara afterwards and I was like, please don't make me stand up there for the whole curtain call. And luckily she, we adapted it and I was able to sit on the platform. But yeah, it was like a 2 foot by like 5 foot thing. So it was really tight.
2 feet doesn't sound that small, but when your skirt is 2 feet either side of you, because it was this gorgeous rose petal thing. The skirt was just amazing. I mean, that costume was gorgeous. Yeah. But then, you had feet under there somewhere.
And I was wearing 3 pairs of tights. Fun fact. Oh my God.
All right, so Jesse, you were super late tonight, so let's put you on the spot now. What about your best memories of this production?
Oh my goodness. I'd have to say my most fond memories is just having all of those costume changes that we had. I must have had about 6 or 7 costume changes. It was maybe about 5 or 6. I don't know, but it felt like 20. And so I just remember once the downbeat happened, I was just singing, and if I was not singing, I was changing my costume. So those were really, really fun. Me and Addison, we were always backstage, just like, where are you at in your costume change? I don't know. But yeah, no, those were really, really enjoyable moments. Just getting to play so many different characters, always just trying to wear so many different hats. That was a really fun challenge, and it really kept me on my toes for sure. So that was nice.
I mean, it's a short show, but you never stopped, did you? Addison, you were in sort of a similar situation, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, once we started, it was just I think Addison had it, he had it worse than me. Once the show started, it was just nonstop singing and changing, so.
Yeah, for me, it was just the one where I had to like scramble down like the ladder and then just like throw my clothes off and then come back in and sing a sweet, sweet song. I think this version actually,
and sing completely calm and unruffled.
Right, exactly.
Right, because as the drunkard, you were even higher than Miss Grace.
Yeah, but I had a harness on, so
He was
no pretty dress. I'm not bitter about it.
But you actually came down with some insane flu, right? So how was that climbing when you were delirious with fever?
Yeah, opening night, I came down with a fever of 102, and show must go on. So yeah, it just happened. But I was really grateful for that harness climbing up that ladder up on top of that bookshelf. When I was like getting my bearings of what is down and what is up. But yeah, I was gonna say just a fun little fact to look. I'm pretty sure in this recording that's gonna stream the dress rehearsal, we didn't quite have all of the costume changes ironed out, and I think my pants are like falling down.
Oh.
It's not enough to be vulgar, but it's enough to be. Oh, that's a little bit of white shirt popping out where it shouldn't be. Fun times in the opera. It doesn't always go smoothly.
So this opera is super episodic. I believe, Josh, at one point you were shoved on stage in a rolling office chair or something quite like that.
That's right. I was the vain man. It was actually typecasting because I'm pretty vain myself. So no, I have to second what everyone else has said. That I was from beginning to finish. I was changing costumes the entire time, except for one moment. During the sunset, I think it was the sunset scene, and it was just music for like maybe a minute or so, and it was so transcendental. It transcending. It was so beautiful. I just loved that music. I loved when Ty would say, "It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye." I thought that was so touching. The messages, the simple messages and the simple truths that one can find in this opera. Yeah, it was just an amazing show to be a part of. Wonderful singers, wonderful people. And and to be surrounded by all these children, that was and such great singers too, and they were really on the ball. I loved being around all these people. It was awesome.
And you know how to play the kazoo now.
The kids were on it.
Yes, now I'm a professional kazoo player. So
yeah, and you were a triple threat because you were actor, singer, and kazoo player.
Absolutely.
And dancer. Hello.
And there's only one other time where I've played an instrument on the stage, and that was the tuba. Or is sousaphone. So, yes, in
that's a whole other podcast, I think.
Yeah, Minotti's "Help the Globulinks."
You've just defined the range of things you can do in the instrumental world. So there's a lot in between.
Kazoo and tuba.
Yeah,
yes,
there's a lot in between. How about you, Melissa? What do you have? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Carol.
Oh no, you please.
I was just going to throw it to Melissa and ask her what some of her fondest memories were. And I thought it was interesting that Josh talked about kind of a takeaway for him, sort of for his spirit. And I wonder, Melissa, any of that for you? What did you take away from this production?
The adjective I keep thinking of is that it was a magical experience, which seems cheesy. I guess we are musicians though, but I've never had an experience with a cast where I felt such love from people and such camaraderie. It helped that I knew some of the people in the cast and that I'd known them for a while, watch their careers advance and then see them do this amazing work. But the whole experience for me was just kind of magical from beginning to end, seeing what was happening in everyone's minds come to life. I remember when I first saw the pictures of the costumes thinking, that's absolutely amazing. And then seeing them on the actual people was even more stunning. Looking in the mirror and not recognizing yourself because wigs and makeup and costuming did such a beautiful job, and they paid such close attention to individual details. They cared about I can speak for myself. They cared about me and what I needed during the process of all of it. And there were stressful moments for sure, collectively and individually, but I always felt supported, and I always felt like we knew that we were creating something that was magical. And that's actually what I heard from audience members too. You kind of wonder, is this going to come off like I want it to? Is the audience going to feel what I hope that they feel? And from everybody that I talked to after the show, they said, I didn't know what to expect coming into this show, but I think they felt the same kind of, I'll just use the word magic. They felt that we felt backstage with the kids and with all the adults and with the beautiful music and words that you just can't help but keep, from going through your head. I still am singing pieces from the show a year and a half later, and my husband will pop out with singing a piece from the show randomly. And of course the text is just timeless. And so it's wonderful to reminisce, to see all these people and remember all these things. I have such compassion and love for all these people.
Well, and let's talk about the less glamorous and exalted part of this. For your entrance as water, talk about your entrance as water. This was not the glamour of the operatic world.
No, it's not. In fact, that was a really stressful experience for me, just because I felt I was trying to get the directions exactly right every time, and I felt like I always missed it. So I'd even write it down, and then during rehearsal I'd get it wrong, and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? I'm not quite getting the signals and the whatever else, but we got it down eventually. And I had I can't remember her name. I had a woman that was down underneath the stage with me beforehand, and then I always knew when I came up that my colleagues would be right there. It was I had to get past the stress of it and just sing.
Yeah, I mean, because this was Melissa's entrance for water. She comes up and looks so beautiful and exalted and placid on this
I remember the conductor kept giving a hard time because you weren't always above the wood of the stage when you were singing, and some mean conductor kept saying, "Why don't we see her yet?"
But I mean, literally right before that beautiful entrance where she looks so placid and amazing, and hopefully, once we got the timing organized, which is thankfully why we rehearsed. But you were like crawling on your hands and knees.
No, I mean, I know you were. It was crazy and totally not your fault. But we've got it finally. Yeah, so it all worked.
Well, I think we did. I was going to say, I don't remember. I just remember being happy at the end. So I think we got it. But that was a new experience for me, and certainly different than being able to look your conductor right in the eye before you come in and see their hand, see everything. I'm used to that, and I'm also used to being able to sense it. But when you're that far away and you're crawling underneath, and your long wig is stuck everywhere underneath the stage, and you're trying to not be stuck when you come out of the hole. But I think, by the time I got out, it was just like, and poise, no matter what.
And you always looked amazing and like, no problem.
Well, that's that costume magic. I mean, you couldn't put those costumes on and not feel like you were, 100% plus.
I think we have to now, as a good transition, we need to talk to the Fox at this point. So, I mean, Melanie, what was that role like for you? What was this experience like for you? You've done a lot at Utah Opera over the years. And I mean, how does this rank among your experiences there?
Oh, definitely top. I mean, first of all, the story and the character are amazing. But one thing I love about performing opera is the physical aspect. And I definitely remember kind of asking Tara, like, so how much of an animal am I going to be? Can I get on the floor? Can I crawl a little? Can I do a little bit of this? And kind of playing with the human versus animal characteristics of the character. I also, like so many others, had a super quick costume change right before the Fox entrance between the rose scene. I think we said there were like 3 minutes and 10 seconds between the two scenes. So it
wasn't just a costume, it was a wig and makeup.
Right. I had to get the completely different wig and then completely different makeup on and then run back out. And so one of the fun things is I had a bunch of props that I had to play with. And I discovered about halfway through the run, I would take a bite out of an apple and then throw it off stage, that some of the stage managers liked to kind of predict where I was going to throw it and try to be there to catch it. And once I saw to the corner of my eye all this commotion, and I was like, what's happening? And they're like, oh, we're trying to figure out who's going to catch it. So then I started kind of trying to throw it to them or whatever. I also had another prop that I would throw at Ty to get his attention. And there was one particular performance when I threw it past Ty and it rolled down into the orchestra. And so I was just like, oh, we got to keep going. Hopefully I didn't hit anybody. And found out later that it was all fine. So,
it landed on a violist's head, but it was all fine. No, it did not hit anybody. I remember.
I love that you mentioned props because I wanted to ask Jared. I mean, I know, Jared, you talked about how one of the highlights of this was getting to work with Ty and getting coached by Ty, as you said. If there was a prop on that stage that you could have taken with you and would have on a shelf now, what would that be?
Well, I had Ty. Didn't I always have a pencil, or I was always worried about having a pencil in my bag because I was supposed to sketch for you, wasn't I?
Yeah.
Please draw me a sheep.
I kind of wish that we had like a 20-pack of Ticonderoga pencils sharpened and ready to go every night, because for some reason they were always like disappearing. And as Ty can tell you, my sketching skills throughout the run of the show just got so good. I felt like I should open an art exhibit myself. Don't you think, Ty?
Yeah.
I mean, I was getting really good. But yeah, I guess it may sound right, but the power that show inspires of the imagination, like the way Tara and Jacob envisioned with the books and the paper on the ground, and just reimagining the show from its original debut, it inspired me to like want to create myself. And Jacob's drawings of our costumes and the concepts of our characters was like incredible. Like I want to frame mine and put it on the wall. It was so beautiful. And it kind of got me thinking about visual art and wanting to explore that a little more. And yeah, it would have been nice to take maybe my pencil that I used on stage every night. That would have been cool to have.
That's fun. Did you have knowledge of I don't know. I mean, for me, I knew that the novel existed, or the novella, but I wasn't super connected to it. It's not, strangely enough, something I read as a child. Jared, did you have a connection to it from early years?
So I did receive a copy of it from my aunt, Ariel Bybee. She was a singer. She was
a wonderful mezzo who's had a career at the Met and all the big opera companies.
She gave me a copy when I was young, and it sat on my shelf, and I never looked at it. I don't know why, until I had the opportunity to do this role, and that immediately got me thinking that I should probably read the book. And so it was a while before I actually cracked it open and delved into it, and I wish I had done that sooner.
Does that mean you thought about your aunt when you were, was there a connection then with doing this role and your aunt, who was such a great influence?
Absolutely. I mean, of course, she wrote me a little note in one of the opening pages of the book that I read often as I was looking through and developing the pilot for myself. But yeah, she did often creep into my mind as I was preparing and doing the show. So that was a nice thing to have.
Yeah. Ty, did you read the novel before you auditioned, or did you wait to read it until you got the part?
I hadn't read it before I heard we were doing this, but Ms. Malinka thought it would probably be good if I read it before I tried out, so it could maybe help with some aspects of the character and stuff for the tryout. So yeah, I read the book, I think, before I tried out, but only after I had heard about the opera.
Did anyone else have like a really, like I say, I don't have a childhood connection. Melanie?
So I read the book when I was a child, and but I don't really remember much about it. Just that.
Did you read it in German?
I did, yes. Der kleine Prinz. But
Kleine Prinz.
I just remember all the adults saying this is such an important book, and it has such a beautiful message. And I just remember as a kid not really connecting with it, and I guess missing the message. and then I read it again while I was working with Ty on the music, and I have to say, when you read it after you know all the music, just how it's set, it brings out so many lines. So when you're reading it, then you're hearing the music while you're reading the lines. So the words are actually with the melodies, and it becomes much more poignant actually. And because the music itself has brought out kind of the important lines or the things that you maybe want to remember.
I mean, yeah.
It's a very different experience reading the book after you have worked on the opera or seen the opera or dived into studying.
Yeah, you can't read those lines and not hear the melodies once that we've gotten so attuned to what Rachel and Nicholas have done.
You know, Carol, I'm not important here, but I can give my own book story. And it's that just like so many things with Utah Opera, I read the book when I find out the thing is happening on stage. The same was true of Grapes of Wrath. It was true of Moby Dick. I'm embarrassed to say I didn't read it until that. It's Melanie as well, I'm seeing. And I didn't read The Little Prince until I found out this was happening, because I usually write articles for the program book. So I wanted to do my due diligence. And I have to say, Ty, I don't know how you read that at your age. I found it baffling as an adult. I loved it, but I don't know what I would have thought of as a kid. I mean, I can't imagine. Did anybody else read it as a kid?
Yeah.
Right.
Jim?
I had read it as a kid. I still have the copy that my grandmother gave me. And it's, I'm not sure, maybe from the 30s or something. There's a date on the front cover. And I've read it. And then I've read it to my son several times. And the first time I read it to him, he was, 4 or 5 or something. And all I remember was how mad he got at the end of the book. Like, I thought it was going to be this transcendent book and it was going to teach him about life and seeing with clear eyes. And when the final thing happens he was mad and he didn't want to read the last couple pages. He was just like, that's it, I'm done.
That's awesome.
Did anybody else read it as a kid, Addison?
So I took French like in middle school. This is nowhere near as fun of a story. But I was supposed to read it and I wasn't into it. But one thing that like I did remember from my French class was they showed us French francs, I think, francs, whatever the money was, the currency before the euro. And some of the they had the Little Prince, like the image, instead of a president or a king or whatever, they had the Little Prince, and I was like, so this is really important for like a whole culture and a whole generation of people. This story, I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Well, anyone else have like a great experience with the novel from a childhood perspective? I mean, I said I never read it, but I just suddenly remembered the Baobabs. I did read it, and the Baobabs like really disturbed me. Like as a child, I was like, these Baobabs make me really uncomfortable because they're so creepy. And what the heck is a Baobab anyway? Jesse, you were going to say.
They were creepy in the show.
Creepy.
I was just gonna say that right before we started staging the production, it was audition season in New York City. So I was just running around New York City doing auditions like we do in December, November. And that was the book that I had with me during that period. And like most auditions, you're, crashing on someone's couch and you're just by yourself 1,000 miles away from home. And that book, like was said earlier, I finished reading it and I was like, wow, I cannot believe this is a children's book, because it just spoke to me on so many levels. And, having those audition season blues, I read it and I was just like, wow, this is, the entire thing about, you are, just because you're physically separated from someone does not mean that they are gone. And that really meant so much to me in, a time where I just felt very physically isolated from a lot of people. It really gave me a lot of comfort and a lot of love during that time. So yeah, no, it's an incredibly profound book, and I could not believe it took me that long to finally read it, for sure.
Well, isn't it the best thing about a children's book that it can speak so profoundly to adults as well? I mean,
absolutely.
How many of us adults love, I don't know, I can't think of the Secret Garden or something. It's just they mean something different to you when you're an adult than they do as a child, and you read them and enjoy them equally.
Totally.
I mean, I just have to say, everyone, this has been incredible to spend this time with you. I have been my entire career in the symphony business, but I've always wanted to be in the opera business, and you guys are why. And this has been really fun for me. So, Tara, I can only imagine as you're sitting here seeing all these faces and hearing all this, that you would do it all again if you could, I'm sure. So I want to give you the last word on this little reunion. What's the big takeaway for people watching the show, and what's the big takeaway for you from this experience tonight?
Well, as you say, I mean, I would definitely do it all again. I'd leap at any opportunity to work in Utah. I love the people in Utah. I love the company and the children's choir, and the people that they hire are always top-notch musicians and top-notch human beings. So I hope that the audience can feel, as Melissa said, the magic of the piece, but also the magic of the community that we share, which I think is ultimately, it's the reason why so many of us do what we do, is to create community and relationship, and not to sound hokey, but like to literally make the world a better place through music and our experiences with one another. So I am delighted that during this strange time in our lives that we get to enjoy such a beautiful work of art that we made together and feel proud. And I hope that it touches the audience just as much as it did us.
I can't thank all of you enough. It's so wonderful to see all your faces again and just to remember all the beautiful things we shared. I am so grateful that we were able to present this and offer it to our audiences, because it was really an extraordinary piece. And I look forward to the next time we bring it onto the Utah Opera stage when we have live performances again. So thank you all for joining us and for taking time out of your Tuesday evening.
Great. Good to see everyone.
Great evening. And we will see you soon.
Love you guys.
Bye.
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 Ciao.